Happy New Year's, everyone. ご新年明けましておめでとうございます。On behalf of the CB staff, thank you for all the support we've received over the past year from so many of you, and I hope we can offer you interesting programs in this upcoming year. 今年もよろしくお願いします。Please join me in 合唱。南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏。Today, we're grateful to Kiyo Masuda for sharing with us how to make the Dharma connection through children's literature. She's provided a similar workshop for our BCA Ministers Assistance Program and many of our Dharma School Teachers Associations throughout BCA. Kiyo is a retired educational resource specialist for the K-12 grades and has developed many Dharma School resources through the Palo Alto Buddhist Temple Dharma School. She's married to BCA Minister Emeritus, Reverend William Masuda, and as a result, helped at many of the temples he was assigned to. And this morning, we're fortunate that she has taken the time to share her wisdom and knowledge with us. Thank you so much, Kiyo.
Good morning, and thank you so much for allowing me to share my passion with all of you. As you know, I was an educator and taught a lot of literature and children's books. And so I brought that into my retired life and sharing it with the Dharma, which I believe is an important part of my life. And I understand that there's been requests by parents and grandparents for books that have a Buddhist message that can be related to little ones. And so today, rather than suggesting books for older children, these will be books, picture books.
Kiyo, you accidentally muted your mic. Can you please unmute?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Okay, I didn't even realize I touched it. Sorry about that. Okay, and so anyway, these will be picture books that can be read to little ones. And as I said, can also be used with older children, even with adults. And I just want to say that every story has a Dharma message. And its relevancy is determined by the reader's interpretation. So today I'd like to share my interpretation of books on how to help children prepare for and make sense of this whole moral turmoil that our country is presently experiencing. It's a really disturbing time with the media packed with headlines of violence and hate, racism, sexism, homophobia, and today, of course, the peril of democracy. And it just goes on and on. And so this really toxic atmosphere, it's affecting the lives, emotions, and confidence of all of us, and including our children. And you know, as an Asian American, I'm now wary of being in large crowds of strangers, you know, like Oakland, Chinatown, which is a really busy shopping area. And the thing is, nothing dangerous has ever happened to me, but with all this talk about racism and hate crimes against Asians, I feel very vulnerable, especially now I'm old too. And so what about our Asian children and youth? What about all children of color? How do they feel? And how do we prepare them to navigate this world today? I'd like to begin with a brief explanation of the essential teachings and its explanation of the state we are faced with today. Then we can talk about books. And this is a copy of the essential teachings that Judy so nicely typed. And you all received a copy of this called The Essential Teachings Expanded. It simply defines 14 teachings of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. Next slide, please. The essential teachings is made up, as I said, of 14 key points that are essential to Jodo Shinshu. And the Palo Alto Temple Dharma School teachers and I were working on a list of books. This was, 10 years ago or better, that relate to Buddhist teachings. And it was difficult to choose a teaching for each book because there were so many teachings and they weren't organized in any easy way to access. Also, a major concern was how to make these concepts understandable and meaningful to our children. They can be very difficult to understand. Amida, no self, wisdom, Shinjing. I thought it might be convenient for teachers when planning their lessons to have a list of teachings important to the understanding of Jodo Shinshu, defined in simple language. And as you see on the list, they are Amida Buddha, wisdom and compassion, nirvana, no self, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, Six Paramitas, impermanence, interdependence, karma, nembutsu, other power, self-power, and awakening of faith. And so after much committee deliberation, the final list is this, the essential teachings expanded. And here, wisdom is defined as the profound understanding of the nature of reality, i.e., seeing things as they truly are. There's Amida Buddha's wisdom, Shakyamuni's wisdom, the wisdom of older people, making wise choices, thinking before you speak. And compassion is deep empathy, e.g., seeing things as they are with loving kindness. It is not pity or sorrow for the suffering. Amida's compassion, social, ethical, moral responsibility. The word kindness can be used for little children. Next slide, please. Cause of suffering, relief from suffering. I think the Buddhist teachings are really important in helping me to understand the craziness that is going on today. Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings, which I call Dharma truths, address the human condition of suffering. They are the reality of life, impermanence, interdependence, karma, no self. Our suffering can be eased with the realization of these truths and the practice of the Eightfold Path with wisdom and compassion. And the suffering, the social suffering, the personal suffering of so many people are because of the racism and the civil rights, democratic values, hate, intolerance, gender, sexual intolerance. So much, with so much diverse feelings here that we cannot seem to come to terms with. Next slide, please. Our society's pent-up frustrations were released by the eruption of its unconscious biases of racism, sexism, and homophobia. These negative biases were fomenting over the years, and today they are believed to be true facts by a critical mass of people here. Asians are the model minority. Pit bulls are dangerous and unpredictable. Islam is a violent religion. Keep immigrants out. Blacks and browns are inferior. And it goes on and on and on. These are things that just pop up in our unconscious thought. Next slide, please. What is your immediate reaction when you see these guys? Uh-oh, they look shady. Cross the street. If you know who they are, Well, they are the famous, if you know who they are, your attitude will change. And I think kids would know who they are. The first is Lil Baby, and the next guy is Eminem, and they are very famous rappers. So, next slide, please. I think much of the spread of this phobia has been exacerbated by priming. That's the incessant, hateful, divisive rhetoric blasting in the media and social media to arouse fear and uncertainty. Priming has been proven to be a very powerful means of shaping opinions. It occurs when people are exposed to certain words or images that then subconsciously influence their thinking or behavior. It can be a helpful tool or a dangerous one, depending upon the intent. I'm thinking of the former president's incessant mantra that the 2020 election was stolen from him, as ridiculously false as this has been proven by numerous facts and tests. It is believed by 74 million people. It has been and continues to be the clarion call for the distrust of the present administration. And it's powerful. Slide off, please. I think much of the spread of this phobia has been exacerbated. Here, I can't even say the word I've written. Exacerbated by priming the incessant. Oh, I read that already, didn't I? The power of priming reminds me of this parable about a Cherokee grandfather and his grandson. I bet many of you know this one already, but I'd like to repeat it. They were spending the day together fishing, quietly enjoying their day together. The grandfather says that he has two wolves inside that are always fighting. One wolf is selfish, mean, arrogant, jealous, a bully who lies and is just not pleasant. The other wolf is kind, gentle, honest, fair, empathic, generous, and loving. The grandson waits for his grandfather to continue. He doesn't, so he asks, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, the one you feed the most. The bad wolf is our ego, displayed by the three poisons or gas of greed, anger, ignorance, or stupidity. This is what is happening today, collectively. The collective bad wolf is being fed so much with priming, it's gotten out of control. In order for the collective good wolf to take over, we have to feed it a diet of the good, healthy stuff, like honesty, kindness, fairness, forgivingness, to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds. Next, the Eightfold Path slide, please. Eightfold Path, next, there you go. Okay. Shakyamuni Buddha prescribed the Eightfold Path for us to practice so that we too may live our life with wisdom and compassion and attain Buddhahood. There's right view, right thought, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. Next slide, please. The first is right view. It's the layman's practice of wisdom and compassion. Wisdom is gained through knowledge. The more we know, the better decisions we can make. And compassion is to understand with empathy what is seen. So, right view is to see things with a pure mind, one not tainted with greed, anger, or stupidity, but with understanding and compassion. It is the foundational stepping stone to the other views. Next slide, please. Shinran Shonin emphasized the importance of seeing ourselves realistically, of seeing the bad wolf as well as the good wolf in ourselves. To be a bad wolf is not learned. Do we purposely teach our children to be greedy, to get angry if they don't get their way, to be selfish? Of course not. The bad wolf is our ego. It always wants its way, and if it doesn't, it reverts to its three poisons, and it's very difficult to control. The good wolf, however, must be taught. It must be taught to be strengthened, to withstand the cruelty that its counterpart can inflict. We learn to share, to be kind, to take turns. Yes, we have to learn to be kind and gentle to all living things and protect all who are weaker than myself. And you see on the slide, I have the three poisons that are not taught, Ruthie and the not so teeny tiny lie. I got this for a little girl, and I think she was in first grade, and her mommy said, "Oh, thank you. This is exactly what we needed," because the little one was trying to defend herself by stretching the truth. The Want Monsters is a great book. It's mine, it's mine. You know what that one is about. And I love this book, Please, Mr. Panda. Slide off, please. It's important to feed the good wolf from an early age. This book is Nothing Something, Kids' Questions and Zen Answers about life, death, family, friendship, and everything in between. And it's by Thich Nhat Hanh. And there's one little passage I'd like to read to you. And he tells us very succinctly why we must prime our children from an early age. And the child's question is, here it is. Can you see that? The child's question is, when my parents divorced, they fought a lot. Why can't they live together? And Thich Nhat Hanh says, if our parents separate, it's not because they want to make us suffer, but because they have difficulties that they can't overcome. Living together is not easy. If you are still a kid and you start practicing love and understanding now, it may be easier to live with other people when you grow up, because you will have had a lot of practice with compassion. And this is another favorite book of mine. It's a picture book that addresses the phenomena of unconscious bias and social priming with much wisdom and compassion, I think. And I like to use picture books because they are short, to the point, and engaging. And the Dharma message is easily understood because children can relate to the characters, plot, and/or theme. And as you listen, look at the illustrations carefully. And that cliche, a picture is worth 1,000 words, is so true. Today's story is titled Milo Imagines the World. And Milo is a little boy who loves to draw, and he has a great imagination. Oh, and it's by Matt Della Pena, and the pictures, illustrator is Christian Robinson. Okay. Next slide, please. Here you can see Milo's imagination at work. Next slide. Here are some of Milo's drawings, and you can see he and his sister are going down to the subway. What begins as a slow, distant glow grows and grows into a tired train that clatters down the tracks. A cool rush of wind quiets into a screech of steel, and when the doors slide open, Milo slips aboard. The train bucks back into motion as he and his sister squeeze onto bench seats. The whiskered man beside Milo has a face of concentration. A businessman has a blank, lonely look. The wedding-dressed woman near the far door has a face made out of light, while the dog, peeking out of her handbag, has no face at all, just a long, lolling tongue. Next, please. These monthly Sunday subway rides are never ending, and as usual, Milo is a shook-up soda, excitement stacked on top of worry, on top of confusion, on top of love. To keep himself from bursting, he studies the faces around him and makes pictures of their lives. At a downtown local stop, the whiskered man folds up his crossword and hurries off the train. Next, please. Milo imagines him trudging through brown mounds of slush. It's a 5-flight climb to his cluttered apartment where he's greeted by mewing cats and burrowing rats. Parakeets tweet songs of longing as the man sips tepid soup, hunched over a game of solitaire. Late that night, the door to the parakeet cage mysteriously falls open, and the cats gather on the cold sill to watch the birds fly free above the city. Next, please. Milo tugs his sister's sleeve and holds up his picture, but even when she turns to look, he can tell she doesn't see. She's a shook-up soda too. A boy in a suit boards the train with his dad. His hair is a perfect part, and there's not a single scuff on his bright white Nikes. Next, please. Milo imagines the clop, clop, clop of the horse-drawn carriage that will carry him to his castle. Imagines the clink, clink, clink of the guards slowly lowering the drawbridge. Across the human-made moat, the boy is met by a butler, 2 maids, and a gourmet chef offering crust-free sandwich squares. Next, please. Milo flips to a fresh page at a bustling midtown stop. When the wedding-dressed woman strides off the train, a band of street performers launches into Here Comes the Bride, and everyone on the platform stops and cheers. Next, please. Milo imagines the grand cathedral ceremony where the couple will be pronounced husband and wife, imagines the groom whisking his new bride to an awaiting hot air balloon where the pilot loads them in with blankets and blasts the heat. And up they go, hand in hand beyond the concrete wall of the city into the infinite blue. Next, please. Milo holds this picture too, but his sister shoos him away. Can't you see I'm playing my game? Next, please. He watches her thumbs bang around her smudge screen, then turns back to the boy in the suit. They lock eyes for a few long seconds, and suddenly it feels like the walls are closing in around Milo. Next, please. The spell is broken when a crew of breakers bounds onto the train announcing, "You all ready for a show?" Several curious faces look up as the beat drops, and now the girls are walking up walls. They're whirling around poles. They're backflipping over shopping bags. When the train pulls into the next stop, they collect a few dollars and scramble for another car. Next, please. Milo imagines them going from train to train, doing their act as everyone watches. But even after the performances are over, look at the picture carefully, Faces still follow their every move when they walk down the electronics aisle at the department store. When they cross into the fancy neighborhood, Milo doesn't really like this picture. So he puts away his pad and turns his reflection in the window. Next, please. What do people imagine about his face? Can they see him reciting his volcano poem to the class? Can they hear his mom's soothing voice reading him a bedside book over the phone? Can they smell the chili Colorado bubbling in a pot in his auntie's apartment near the cemetery? Next, please. Butterflies flood Milo's stomach when it's finally their stop. He follows his sister onto the cold station platform and up the stairs. Above ground, he's surprised to see the boy in the suit a few paces ahead of him. Next, please. He's even more surprised when the boy joins the long line to pass through the metal detector. Milo's sister suddenly bends to give him a hug. I didn't mean to snap at you, she says. She takes his hand, adding, You have your picture ready? He nods, feeling the warmth of her fingers. As they slowly shuffle forward, Milo studies the boy in the suit, his dad rubbing his thin shoulders. And a thought occurs to him. Maybe you can't really know anyone just by looking at their face. Next, please. Milo tries to reimagine all the pictures he's made on the train. Maybe he could have done it like this instead. This is the lonely-looking man. He's sitting with his family. This is the lady in the wedding dress. She's marrying her sweetheart. These are the breakers. They're being well received. Next, please. Milo's chest fills with excitement when he spots his mom through the crowd. His sister rushes to give her a hug before pulling Milo in too. And it's in this tight tangle of familiar arms that he feels most alive. Do you see the little boy sitting with his father and mother? Where are they visiting their moms? Next, please. When they separate, Milo flips through his pad until he finds the right picture. I made this for you, he said, holding it up, and he watches for the smile he hopes will spread across his mom's face. Next, please. What do you think? Okay. No slide, please. Isn't this a great story? It's one little ones can relate to, as well as packed with inferences for older people like us to think about our own biases, conscious and unconscious. Milo, this little guy, realized his error, his unconscious bias, when he thought, maybe you can't really know anyone just by looking at their face. As Thich Nhat Hanh suggested, living together is not easy. If you are still a kid and, if you are still a kid, I lost my cursor, excuse me. If you are still a kid, and you start practicing love and compassion now, it may be easier to live with other people when you grow up because you will have had a lot of practice with compassion. Okay, can you turn the slide on now? Next one. There you go. Thank you. And this is why I think it is so important to share the Dharma truths with our children from a young age, to feel the good wolf, to feed the good wolf, and understand the bad wolf. I would love to have gotten into this book because it's got so much stuff that we could talk about, but given the time, we won't be able to. Okay. And next slide, please. You all received a book list, and can you turn me on? Can you please turn me on, Koichi? I want to show the book list. Here, you all received this book list, and I have the slides that you will be seeing next are illustrations of the book covers of the books on this list. And I have the books, if you will look at the list, arranged in little categories. And one is right view. The next is difficult to see things as they are. And in parens, I tried to put the teaching or the topic that these books address. Okay, next is good wolf, bad wolf. Next is acceptance of self and others, respect of self and others. And then marginalized population. And then books for all ages. And this is just a very simple list. You can use these books for whatever you think they can address for you or they read to you. Okay, and the first one is right view. And this, I love these books. This one, whoops. This one, oh gosh, I want to point. Well, I can't. I don't know how to point on my iPad. So the book, The Rabbit Listened, is a very cute book, and the little boy, his block of things broke. And so all of these different animals want to comfort him. It's very good. And then, do you see the book Chinatown Pretty? This is a picture book of, oh, thank you, Koichi. This is a picture book of people in Chinatown, Oakland, Los Angeles, all over the United States. And this really helps me. I see these little men, little ladies, and in Chinatown, different places. And I thought, oh my goodness, you can tell they are not from here. Yeah, remember the phrase FOB? Yeah. And then when I read this book, saw this book, I realized how unconscious my prejudice was, that these people, they're beautiful the way they dressed. They were confident and they think they look nice. Who am I to say, judging from my idea of what is beautiful? All of a sudden, I think these people are beautiful. So I just wanted to share that with you, how books can help you change your attitude. Okay, next slide, please. Difficult to see things as they are, yes. Do you see duck, rabbit? That's a simple one. Can you point to duck, rabbit, Koichi? Right, is that a duck or is that a rabbit? And then of course, they all saw a cat, that's a great one, because, you know, it depends on your perspective, whether you be a flea, how do you see the cat? If you see if it is a bird, how would the bird see the cat? If it is a person, how would they see the cat, etc. It's very good. And there's Mo Willems. He writes great books. Can you point to Mo Willems? A Big Guy Took My Ball. Mo Willems writes a lot of good books about, for kids, about good wolf, bad wolf. And this one, I love this one because, oh, Piggy says to Elephant, oh, a big guy took my ball. And Elephant says, what's a big guy doing taking your ball? And I will show him he can't do things like that. So he goes on over, and what does he see? He sees a big whale with the ball. And oh, it shocks him. His unconscious bias was working until he got surprised. And then I could go on with all these books, but Babak the beetle, he found what he thought was an egg, and he was so kind. He had to find somebody. He had to find the owner of that egg. It's quite cute. Okay, next slide, please. Good wolf, bad wolf. And this here I have several Mo Willems books again. And these are how can I say? Let me see. Norman Didn't Do It. This is a new book. Can you point to Norman Didn't Do It? And the wonderful thing about Norman Didn't Do It is it talks about friendship and jealousy, and then how he learned and resolved his jealous feelings, right? And it was the bad wolf, and he learned to take care of the bad wolf. It's Mine is another one, Leone. That's like a classic there. And let me see. Oh, I said I love Please Mr. Panda. And It Fell from the Sky is about greed. It's a little sophisticated. And The Word Monster. This is a great book because, no, not The Word Monster. I'm sorry. The Want Monster is the one. This is a great book because it tells you it's really about the bad wolf, the ego, that if you control the ego, it will work for you, but you can't let it get out of hand. It's a very good book. And then Elephants Cannot Dance. It's good. Please, Mr. Panda. Okay, next slide, please. This one I think is important. Acceptance of self, acceptance of others, respect for self, respect for others. You know, as I'm going through these books, I feel like I'm sort of talking like these are bibliotherapy books. I guess they could be used as such. The one, Ben and Emma's Big Hit, this was written by, just came out by California Governor Gavin Newsom. And he is dyslexic. And he wrote this book about being dyslexic and how he overcame it as a kid. And I Like Me is an old book. Nancy Carlson writes a lot of cute little books. And it's about a little piggy who's fat. And she says, I like me. And when I say acceptance of self, I mean that we have kids, you know, who are self-conscious about one thing or another, and it's important to address it. And then also to see that there are other people, especially kids in their classrooms, you know, that may not be like them. It's important to understand them also. So there's the Parr books, Invisible Boy, he's very shy. The Colors of Us, you know, not everybody is white. Ian's Walk and A Friend Like Simon, those are about people, children with autism. And more now in our classrooms, we have children on this long spectrum of learning, some learning problems. Oliver Button is a sissy, and he loves to dance. And this was written by Tommy DePaulo way back in 1976. So he addressed things like this, even before it was an acceptable topic to talk about, you know, about being gay, being a sissy, and he was bullied. Oliver Button was bullied, but it turns out well. Pip the Little Penguin, you know, kids, if they feel like they're different, they want to be like somebody else, can't accept themselves. When I was young, I hated being Japanese. I wish I were not, but now, of course, it's not like that. I'm fine. I'm very proud of being Japanese. And then I Talk Like a River. This is a new book also. And it's about a child who stutters. And I know that this is a very, very self-conscious disability that some people have. But it's about, and it's beautifully written, and it's written by, the author is the person who overcame this disability. Okay, that's good. Okay, next slide, please. And I think this says, I wrote marginalized populations. I wrote this because, you know, wisdom means knowledge. And the more we know about what is in our world and understand what is in our world, and from an early age, look at all the different peoples in our worlds with an open mind, I think that we can help our children be less prejudiced and unconsciously negatively biased. A Day's Work, and these books, let's see, A Day's Work is about immigrant laborers. Can Man is about, Can Man. And 4 Feet, 2 Sandals is about living in the camps. I think this one is in Pakistan. Those Shoes, not having enough money to buy kind of shoes you want. Still a Family is about homeless, living in a, I think this was the VA. Oh, living not in a homeless camp, but in the shelters. A kid's book about racism, that's very good. Lila's Lunchbox is about Muslim child. Something Happened in Our Town, yes, it's about racism also. Uncle Willie's Soup Kitchen, the lunch thief. There are so many more. And also, I think it's good to learn about other religions here. These are stories to help our children see themselves and others just as they are, with loving kindness, acceptance, and gratitude. Let's continue to prime and nurture the good wolf in our little ones so they'll have a lot of practice developing wisdom and compassion as their unconscious bias. And I would like to read a book or two. Mr. Panda. And this is a book, how do you say it? A picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is by Steve Antony. Can you see it? Please, Mr. Panda, would you like a donut? Give me the pink one. No, you cannot have a donut. I have changed my mind. Would you like a donut? I want the blue one and the yellow one. No, you cannot have a donut. I have changed my mind. Would you like a donut? No, go away. Would you like a donut? I want them all, then bring me some more. No, you cannot have a donut. I have changed my mind. Would you like a donut? Would anyone like a donut? Hello, may I have a donut? Please, Mr. Panda. Yes, you may have them all. Thank you very much. I love donuts. You're welcome. I do not like donuts. Cute book. And it says a lot. And it's a fun little one for little ones. There are so many. This is new. Norman didn't like it. Norman didn't do it. Yes, he did. It's by Ryan T. Higgins. Norman was a porcupine. Norman's best friend was Mildred. Mildred was a tree. I wish I could do this correctly. Norman and Mildred did everything together. Strike one, bounce, chip, chip. You're right, Mildred. It is a little yellow-bellied sapsucker. I love playing tree together. Yay, you win. Norman was happy with the way things were. Okay, one more chapter, then it's lights out, Mildred. Norman and Mildred, Mildred and Norman. Just the two of them. Until one day, pop, there was someone else. And who is that? It was another tree. Suddenly, it was no longer just Norman and Mildred. Now it was Norman and Mildred and the other tree. This did not sit well with Norman. Norman began to worry. What if the other tree wanted?
Oh, Kiyo-san, I don't know what happened. I think you got muted again.
Yeah, I'm
she
sorry.
mute-
I did it by accident.
Oh, Judy's doing it.
I'm trying to let somebody in and I hit a button. Sorry.
Okay. No, it was Mildred and Norman and Mildred and the other tree. This did not sit well with Norman. Norman began to worry. What if the other tree wanted to be friends with Mildred? What if Mildred liked the other tree? What if Mildred liked the other tree more than she liked Norman? Norman kept a careful eye on that other tree. He watched as Mildred and the other tree grew close and closer. Sigh and closer. You're playing tree without me? Life wasn't the same. Fine, you win. Then it happened, the worst possible thing. Mildred and the other tree grew too close together. It was the last straw. This is the last straw, even though in this case, there were no straws, just branches. Norman could not lose his best friend, not to the other tree. Something had to be done. So he studies and studies. Norman planned and he planned until his plan was just right. Then, under the cover at night, Norman dug up the other tree and took it far away, very far away. Very, very far away. To a place where the other tree would never come between Norman and Mildred ever again. And just like that, the other tree was gone. Norman and Mildred were back together, just the two of them. But it wasn't the same. Other tree? What other tree? Oh, that other tree. I don't know what happened to the other tree. I didn't do anything. Maybe it went on vacation. Maybe it moved. How should I know? There, Mildred, you still have me. Soon Norman started to think about Mildred without her new friend. Norman started to think about the other tree all alone out there. Norman started to think about himself and what he did. What if someone had seen him? Let me think. There was the moon, there were the stars, there was the grass and the trees. Oh no, the trees. What if they saw me? What if one tree tells another tree, who tells another tree, who tells another tree, who tells Mildred? What am I going to do? What have I done? What if digging up your friend's friend in the middle of the night and taking that friend very, very far away was not the right thing to do? What if it was the wrong thing to do? Stop staring at me, Mildred. Trip thug. Norman had hit rock bottom. I have hit I have hit rock bottom. Something had to be done. Norman planned and he planned again. Then he went back to where he had left the other tree to try and undo what he had done. Yes, you're right. I went a little overboard, but in my defense, you were touching branches. Norman knew life was going to be different. Look who's back, Mildred. And that was okay. He might even like it. Norman and Mildred and the other tree. Just the three of them. I think this is a great book, and it's funny too, because it does show us a really good Jodo Shinshu teaching, doesn't it? How our bad wolf and our ego can really take over. But then, you know, that's what we have to know. We have to be able to help our children see themselves. Yeah, not in a bad way, but this is just the way we are. We've got to help ourselves, take care of ourselves. Okay.
So, Kiyo, we are at the 1 hour mark. Maybe now would be a great time to open up the session to see if anyone has any questions or even comments. Would that be okay, Kiyo, if we did that at this time?
Yeah. Yes.
Wonderful. I did see a question earlier from Rick Stamble, and I think he asked, how do we know what particular age group each of these stories are for? Could you maybe comment on that a little bit?
I see. Okay. Now, these are all picture books. And, how do we do that? Things like Please, Mr. Panda is, I think, great for little children. And then there is The Rabbit Listened. I think this is good for, oh gosh, it's a good awareness book for all kids, you know, to see, well, you know, when you want to help somebody, or when someone is, or even for parents, I thought, if someone is in need of help, and I do this as an adult, and they say, oh my gosh, so-and-so, like sometimes I'll get so mad. I said, honestly, why were they acting like that towards you, etc. But the Rabbit Listened is it's hard for me to explain it's hard for me to explain what book is good for what kinds of books are good for what age, because it depends on the kids also. But things like this, little kids, What If, is good for older kids also. It's about a child who has to decide whether he wants to be born or not, because there's so much conflict in the world. How is he going to be able to deal with it or not? This is good for older kids. And some of the simple picture books like this, like Todd Parr, this is good for little kids. This is good for little kids, but it's also good for older people, older kids, to talk about, you know, how we see things. Good discussion books. This is good for little kids. This is a classic about being kind. This is a great book. This is about, and this, Jacqueline Woodson has a lot of good books. very thoughtful books. This is about a homeless girl who enters a class, who is a new student in a 4th grade class, and how she is treated by the other kids in the class, and with regret. This is a great book for older kids also. All of these Mo Willems books are good for little kids, and it's good to bring up for discussion about ego with little older kids too. This is a new book that I found, and it's based on a true story. Maybe you saw something about this also. And it's this gentleman found a baby wrapped in a jacket at the subway, and he picked him up anyway, and they raised the child, and he and his husband raised this child, and he was a little black baby, and he's now grown up and he is going to college. I know as parents and grandparents, because I've had several ask me, well, you know, my little one has started to lie, and how do you address that? And so this is a good one. Or, you know, so selfish, my gosh, how do you address that? This one, never wanting to share. And as I said, this one, my child stutters. My child is so shy. My child thinks that he is too dark. My little boy is gay. We've got lots and lots of books now that are address this population of our society now. And I think it's really, really important that we do so, not only for our children to understand those who are not of this persuasion, but also those of our children who are, that we have to make them feel comfortable, accepted, and like all of us, need to be loved and understood.
So, Kiyo, I see a question in the chat that asks, after we read the stories to the kids, what do we say to them to draw out the Buddhist teachings? Or how do we get their reactions for discussion? Do you have any suggestions on that? Well,
you know, if I were a little kid and my grandma said, well, you know, this is the Buddhist thing for this, I would get turned off, you know? And I would just use, like for Norman, I said, oh my gosh, what do you think about Norman? And have the child start. I said, and you know, he was so jealous when Mildred had the other tree friend. What do you think? Do you sometimes get jealous like that too? Yes, yeah. Oh, I did. Etc. You can sort of start off like that and draw the child's experience out. But I would not say, you know, this is the Buddhist teaching about ego or something like that. With the older kids, you can use it as an example, you know, 4th grade, 5th grade. And it's even high school kids, it's good to draw. With these simple things, you can draw out the lessons. And if it's in Dharma school, then of course you could say you know, what teaching it is, etc. But as a parent and a grandparent, and you're reading at home, well, it's up to you, you know, and your relationship with your child, I think. Yeah. This book is so funny, you know. Oh gosh, Norman hit rock bottom, you know, etc. So as a piece of literature, I think this is great. And this one is written like a poetry also. This is good. And yeah, I've got books all over the place. The language of this one, I think this is beautifully written, you know, like a shook up soda. It's very good. And the language is not so good, but some of them, the content is good, what they talk about. And Mo Willems, he has written a lot of books. And this is another one that is filled with pictures. So this tells you. I just have to finish this, it's so funny. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed some pages. Did you get my ball back? Even this simple little book can be used as a lesson for unconscious bias. There are so many books with wonderful artwork. This is What If. It sort of looks Japanesey, doesn't it? But it isn't. And it's by Terry Lennon and Oliver Talak. And this one is like this. There's all different kinds. It's almost impressionist. And I do want to thank CBE for giving me this chance to share like this, because who else can I talk with, you know, about the importance of helping our little ones learn from an early age what it means to think pure and beautiful thoughts, and to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds. I feel very, very strongly that we have to prime with good words and good thoughts more. So anyway, I would like to end my part, please, if we could put our hands together. And Koichi, if you could find the last slide, the loving kindness meditation.
Okay, let me pull it up here.
Here we go. And if we could put our hands together, please. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Namo Amitabha.
Namo